Greetings, fellow men, servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. I want to tell you really quick, I hope it's gonna be quick this time, that the coalition in Germany still stands. Angela Merkel is still Chancellor in Germany, and Horst Seehofer, her coalition partner from Bavaria, is still Minister for the Interior. In this talk, I want to briefly go over the dispute between the two sister parties, the two union parties. Then I will present to you what kind of agreement they reached and why I think that one can be mildly optimistic about this result from a patriotic perspective, and I try to tell you what I think this means for the future of Europe now. The two sister parties, the CSU from Bavaria and the CDU, the former Christian Conservative Party from the rest of Germany, had their little family feud in the last weeks, and it seems that for the time being the fighting is over and a solution, an agreement has been reached between the two parties. So in brief, Horst Seehofer from the Bavarian CSU wanted to control the borders and send people back who either were kicked out of Germany once before or who are already registered in another European country, and we are therefore not responsible for their cases and they should go back to the countries where they were first registered. Angela Merkel did not want to do this unilaterally. She wanted to find a European solution, and she just came back from her fake little summit. Horst Seehofer had set an ultimatum for her, telling her, if you don't solve this in 14 days, I will control the borders and have people sent back unilaterally here in Germany on my own as my function as the Minister for the Interior. This, of course, rubbed many people in the CDU the wrong way, and they lamented the lack of respect that he has for Chancellor Merkel. Seehofer said after the summit that the results are too vague and not good enough. It's not what he wants. He wants those people to not enter Germany. Seehofer even offered to resign. The German state media even spread the news that he had already resigned, which was wrong. It was misinformation. It actually reminded me of Operation Valkyrie. But he just said that he will give Merkel a little more time and that there will be discussions and there will be talks between his party and her party in the coming days. He also said that he will refuse to be fired by a chancellor who is only chancellor because he put her there. That means that without him as a coalition partner, her coalition would be dead and she wouldn't be chancellor anymore. This just goes to show how hardened the fronts were in this little fight and how heated the debate has become. If I got the timeline correctly, there were talks between Schäuble, Merkel and Seehofer with no positive result, but then the factions of the parties in the German Bundestag, the factions of CDU and CSU, they said clearly that they will not tolerate a splitting of the union parties, something that almost had happened in the 70s, but that never actually happened so far. They were determined to stick together, and even if it means to get rid of Merkel and Seehofer altogether, this is what they reported actually. So it was the MPs of both parties who pressured them to find a compromise, to find a solution. And that has actually happened. So of course it was not so easy, I guess, to find a solution where both sides can save face. So let's jump right into it. Here it is. The agreement has 3 points, and the first one says that at the German-Austrian border there will be a new border regime. So it will mean that people who want to seek asylum here and they have been registered as asylum seekers already in another European country will not be able to enter Germany anymore. The second point says that this will be actually implemented by the founding of certain transit camps or transit areas, and these are camps or transit zones similar to those you can find in airports where people will be detained at first and their status will be checked. That means even though they are technically on German soil, they haven't immigrated into Germany yet, legally speaking. So the legal status of these transit zones is such that you are not in Germany yet until your status is checked and determined. And if you fall under the category described in point 1, you will be sent back and you're not allowed to go to Germany. And then what Angela Merkel wanted to have in there, of course, is that this is not just done unilaterally, but rather based on agreements with other European countries that still need to be worked out now. Point 3 just says that if these countries refuse to take back those people, they will just be sent back to Austria, and there will be an agreement with Austria about this practice as well. Now, this is actually an old idea. Back then, they were called anchor centers or something like that, Ankerzentren, where you would keep the people at the border first, then check who is coming, and those who are legitimate would be allowed entrance and the others would be sent back. Back then, the Social Democrats prevented this. They said we would never allow this, but now the idea is back, and the two union parties at least agreed on it now. Now, of course, these centers have not been built yet, nothing is really decided yet. The Social Democrats are also part of the coalition and they also have to agree, but public opinion has really changed. If the Social Democrats would now again speak out against that and not vote in favor for it, they would lose a lot of votes of centrist-minded German voters they have still. They would be seen as the ones who still want illegal migrants to enter Germany unchecked. And the thing that you have to bear in mind is that the target group of this agreement or these plans are actually people who are sent back and they come back and then we kick them out again and they will be back again the next week for these kind of people. So people who have no realistic chance of ever being accepted here as an asylum seeker. And up until now, as soon as they said the word asylum, we had to open a new case. And a judge was busy again, and it costs a lot of money. It is crazy, and our courts are just busy with that. And our administration cannot keep up with the casework because people come for the 50th time, and every time it's Groundhog Day for them. And this is what should be stopped by that, basically. Now, of course, a lot of details have still to be worked out, especially agreements with other countries. And of course, this is not a solution to the migrant crisis. This is just a little piece of the puzzle. It could actually send some ripple effects down to the south, and I hope that out of these ripples will grow shock waves. The idea is that a chain reaction is set in motion where we will send back people at the Austrian border, and then Austria in turn, and Sebastian Kurz has actually announced already that this is exactly what he would do. Austria would do a similar thing at the border to Italy, and Italy would have to get really serious about protecting its coast and also the entrance to the Balkan route. Now, as I said before, of course I do not want these people that we reject to cause trouble then in turn in Italy or in Greece or in Austria. Hell no. I want them out of Europe, of course. But the first step must be to control the outer borders, which has never really happened so far. So I think true European solidarity should not be expressed by distributing the migrants fairly, but rather we should show solidarity among European brothers and sisters by helping all together to secure the outer borders and by finding the people who have no place here and sending them back to their actual homes. That must be our goal, of course, and this agreement is of course no solution like that, but it could be a little starting spark, it could be a little step into the right direction that would trigger other much bigger events. This is why I am mildly optimistic about this agreement now, and I have to say, to be fair now, Seehofer was actually against Angela Merkel's actions in 2015. He warned her against that, but she wouldn't have any of it. So he is almost 70 years old and he will not be a prime minister in Bavaria anymore. He is now a minister under Angela Merkel, a federal minister, and his political career, I would say, is almost over. He has bad health and he also doesn't want to be a politician for much longer, I think. So I guess he thought that before he leaves the political scene, at least he wants to fight for something that's important once again. I really believe this at this point, the way he acted during this little coalition crisis, this sister party feud. I really got the impression that for him it was about the subject matter, about Germany, about Europe, and not about his hurt pride or his very well known dislike for Angela Merkel. Yeah, the two of them really don't like each other. Everyone knows that. So he was in a position where he thought he could gamble, he could risk something, and I think he won. For the most part, Angela Merkel had to agree to what he wanted. Sure, you can say this result is mostly symbolic, but already the Austrians and the Italians are debating or discussing about how they want to deal with this change at the border. And even if you disregard these transit zones and these border checks altogether, you can still see when you analyze the whole affair and how the politicians are talking to the media, you can see that they know that the public opinion in Germany, but also in the rest of Europe, has changed significantly. 1 or 2 years ago, you could still score points with the general public if you lectured them about the great responsibility we have for African people and how we must help everyone because it's our duty as Europeans. Now they talk about security and order in the public space and secure borders and sending people back. Politicians are professional in one thing, and that is to know what lets them gain votes and what loses them votes. And I think right now they are convinced that talking like this law and order kind of talk, gains them votes with the general public. So at least that we can learn from this whole affair. But I think it is not entirely symbolic. There will be actual changes, and my hope is that this will set in motion a chain reaction which will lead ultimately to secure outer borders in Europe, and I hope also it will result in a joint European effort to defend the borders. I don't want the Greeks to just defend their border and the Italians just to defend their border. I would say as a German, we should not only stress the fact that the international law and the European contract compels them to do that. This is their duty according to the contracts they signed. I think we could show true European solidarity in supporting them here. Either we send some troops also, or we could at least support this border protection force financially. And not just in the way that this is already done, but in an actual significant way. We have the manpower, we have the technology. It is not impossible, it is actually easily doable to defend Europe's outer borders. This is the big challenge that lies ahead of us now. So I will keep you posted, of course, on the developments here at the Bavarian-Austrian border, and also how the Social Democrats react now to this and how these plans will be practically implemented then and how fast we will see actually results. I'm really curious about that, and I hope you check my videos again when I report about that. Enjoy the rest of your day. Servus, Kameraden.